Now, if we familiarize ourselves with the layout of the land, what you're looking at here is the Montana Cast Drill data, and I've gone ahead and superimposed the satellite image over the top. The blue star is the current location of the log house. The yellow star is more or less location of the building site. The future cabin site's in that little oxbow that I would like to do with Shay. That's in the red. And then that very valuable, untouched, lichen-infested scree slope is located there in the white. And this is the piece of property you want to picture as we talk about these things going forward. So in the previous video I mentioned the road right-of-way. Here are the current pins right here, and then if we cross the road at the base of that second red post. Now going on the survey that I ended up with before we bought the place, these pins are professionally located, and the road right-of-way basically drifts. It actually drifts. It's to this side a little bit, and then it moves to that side as you go down around the corner. So one of the options, and for our purposes, we're going to call it just the lower of the two options. One of the options has them widening it to the edge of the shoulder, being right through here. For us, you can see it is a highway. I mean, it'll put our driveway, which is, you know, not the driveway I want to leave there permanently. It'll put that driveway right at the edge of the roadside, but we will, however, lose a fair bit down over there. So what I'm going to do is I'll walk down over there, and we can have a look at the other corner. Until Shay and I cleared this was 100% impassable wilderness through here. Now I suspect the reason the road is slightly biased against the rock slope is just how unstable this material is and how much fill would be required to fill it in. Where we're walking would simply move down. It would mean that when the river is high, we wouldn't be able to get through here. Whereas right now, unless the river is at super flood stage, I can always walk through this. And assuming that eagle. Assuming that I'm going to get paid for this, fine. Down there though, from this angle, you can kind of see part of why they want to widen it. That's us up there, and of course this is us down here, and that's the gate down to the river. Right up there is where the rock crusher sits, and that right there is the road into where Shay and I have been working the last few days. So you can see from the ability to look down on top of that semi that here I am less than 12 horizontal feet. Certainly right about where my foot is, maybe just a touch behind my foot, is where that inner pin is down over there. That's going to put a fairly big knob of rock right there. And you're going to notice that all along this edge, and that cliff is even taller than I am, you're going to have to drill and blast in order to widen the thing. Part of the problem comes in right down here at this corner. That sheer cliff is over 100 feet, and you dang near whack your trailer mirrors on it as you go around that corner. I know what you're thinking, right? They just drill and blast into that and use it to widen out into the river. Well, the problem was that back in there where Shay and I are working, this is the mouth of a waterfall, a big one. For some time, either when the ice built up and had the river basically flowed up there and came down here for a non-insubstantial period of time.
which means that all this is scoured. They say that you go out there 40 feet or so, and it is as deep as 80 feet straight down. So that has been a serious problem for them, is once they leave the scree slope from where that waterfall was, it takes ungodly amounts of fill. But the idea of the lower one would go in right here, cut straight above that 35-mile-an-hour sign, and just whack that hill off straight. Half of it being dumped in over here, and half of it being dumped in on the other side. And a little bit coming back in back over here to make the roadbed wider. We own to right about where that truck is now. Right about the apex of the corner. Maybe a smidgen or two beyond it. Not that it matters, because it's a pretty rocky bluff. And because of the mine, I actually have access all the way into up on top of it. Though the actual point of looking down over the roadbed is one of the few areas that I haven't personally stood. So if they go through with the lower road, what's going to happen? Well, we're going to lose this little pinnacle right here, because they're gonna probably take it in order to get road building material. I will miss it. You can see we had a fire here once with Shay, and there were vague plans of a water slide of sorts someday, you know, very vague. But I'll miss this bit of land right in through here. My worry, of course, is that the act of actually dumping the rock into the river will just simply not be allowed, and or it'll take too much, and so they'll fudge it inland, and instead of going right over the top of the twisty road sign, you know, they'll move it in 100 feet and go right in through there. Either way, we will probably lose all of the usability of that land down in there, for which Shay and I have been working on it. But the lower road access, quite frankly, we're not part of the problem. Oh, I guess that's not true. I mean, this little narrow spot right here really doesn't matter. That over there where that truck is, that matters. But we're really, it's other parts of the road that are a much bigger deal. Farther up there and farther behind me, much bigger deals when it comes to pushing out and widening the road if they go with the lower access. You know, you got to figure moving that fence line back probably to where this railroad tie is. So you'd lose most of the heavy timber down here, and it'd push us so close to the river that our access down there would be 100% seasonal, as opposed to it is right now, where barring big floods, it's not. And I, you know me, I got plans for all of it. I got plans for all of it. If it goes the upper road, though, we're in a world of hurt. As for us along this edge, if I'm figuring my figuring right, it would mean that these cliffs would be cut back to the edge of where that current fence is. I might not even lose my big pines down here. And then I would lose my corresponding access, like I said, over there. Help you understand where you are, there's that gate we were looking at before, and the rock knob I was standing on when we were shooting the long distance down. And you know me, I had all sorts of really cool plans. I had a stockpile of mine rail, and I wanted to put the mine carts right down along here with some lights and a flagpole and an American flag and all that stuff, and I wouldn't be able to do that. You don't stand in the way of expanding the empire because you want to display your mining crap. I don't think there's a lot of sympathy there. despite what I said, or I'm going to say a little later, there's where I was. I have now walked up here. I decided to heck with it. If guys are going to survey this, and I might lose all that I'm standing on, then by God, I wanted to say that I'd walked on it at least once. Also, if you're duck hunters, go find yourself a cliff, because apparently ducks on the water don't look up and until you make some noise, and then they, you know, road runner out of there. You can see a little bit of the road right down below me. As far as my property line is, it's somewhere between this tree and that tree, and I think it's much closer to this tree, so it's somewhere in here. The phone company, when they replaced that telephone pole, power company, they thought it was off my land. According to the survey we just got, it was on. Not that I would have told them no or anything. They just told me they didn't have to ask because it wasn't on my land. And, I doubt it matters. We'll have to agree to disagree. I was hoping I'd find some evidence, anchors for rock scalers or something like that. There may have been a small rock oven right down there. According to the neighbor, the original mule road ran right up in there somewhere near where the base of those telephone poles are. I've never seen any proof of it. However, when I look down from up above here, this lichen, that hasn't grown since the 20s. So this slope has been like this for a very, very long time. So they blasted back to it. Again, I see hardly any evidence of any rocks up here being rolled over, people, animals, anything, in hundreds if not thousands of years. So it's a bit of a disappointment. But yeah, in theory, they would have to take, and they kind of want to straighten this corner out. Around there is Kukusnet, the fishing access. Big dip in. My understanding is they would cut her straight right through all this, dump it in the river, dump it in the inlet over there, and cut through straight if they're going to go with the lower road widening. And it is, my understanding, by far the most likely outcome is that it'll go down through here. Of course, that's just the best guess of people who I'm not going to name, who either work for the county or the neighbors who've been through this before and seen the old plat maps, and then some folks who have talked to the tribe.
Again, let's look at the satellite images. So this is my piece with the neighbors on either side, and I have more or less superimposed my extra big wide orange road, showing as to the best description of the neighbor where this stuff is going to go. The arrows in yellow, that's areas where they'd have to take rock, and then the areas in blue is the locations where they would have to dump it. So you can see it's going to cost my neighbor all of his frontage, all of his sheds, and it does encroach on our driveway. Not a small amount, that's for sure.
Well, looky what I just found. I did not think my eastern boundary went down this far, but that was mostly just dead reckoning off of old maps. You can just see the top of the tree that I told you that I thought it was near, and the tree that I said was probably the farthest it could be. And then here we are here. And we butt in pretty straight. I'd put it about right. Okay, well, maybe this is the right spot. You can see several old road beds up in there. Well, again, you could probably figure that if they widened it, this pin right here would be on the very edge of a rather sheer cliff. And I believe I butt up right here to a little bit of Forest Service that comes down through. If I butt up to actual neighbors' properties, then I'll apologize. I'm gonna swing up and around. If it's Forest Service, then it belongs to us. If it's my neighbor, I'm just being too lazy to climb that cliff. So, Merry Christmas. Not trying to be a jerk.